Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending what time zone you're in. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to be here talking to you and presenting to you. First and foremost, I'd like to wish you all the best. I hope that all of you, your families, your loved ones are all fine, safe, and out of harm's way. Clearly, we're living in extraordinary times. This is a meeting or a webinar that we had initially hoped that we would have in person, particularly as life looks to expand and grow beyond finance. We had planned a lot of launch events in various different countries, but clearly, given everything that's going on, this was the next best thing that we could do. And thanks to technology, part of the reason why we're expanding the technology, we're able to all connect with one another and be able to do this session remotely. So it's a real pleasure to do this. It's a real pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be here amongst my colleagues and all of you to talk to you. For those of you who don't know life, to give you a little bit of an overview of life. For those of you who are life members, please bear with us as we welcome various different constituents to our midst, hopefully to our membership in the near future. Maybe you can go to the next page, Jihan. So Life, as many of you know, was founded 10 years ago. It was founded on the premise of wanting to bring together the Lebanese in the diaspora, particularly those that shared a common platform, a platform in finance to begin with, to bring us together as a community, because we transcend our own borders as a community and as a group. And we wanted to get together and try to do some good along the lines of various different pillars, which I will go through in just a minute. But our mission fundamentally is to become a global network of Lebanese professionals working together towards a brighter future, which we have on the next page, Jihan, if you could turn that. And in so doing, our whole idea is to initially start with the field of finance, but also grow beyond that with time. And this is what we're looking to do today, which I'll get to in a minute. How Life grew across the lines of different pillars. We set it very specifically so that we can have a strategy, a plan with a laser vision focus towards executing it. So what are our pillars? Our pillars are, number one, connects all of us, brings us together. We establish stronger bonds between us. And we are all active Lebanese professionals, and we wanted to find a common grounds for us to get together and to help one another in whichever way we can. Today, we're proud to say we have over 1,000 members across the world, across 11 chapters in various different parts of the world in all hemispheres. And with that, we have truly established a global connectivity. We also have a nurture pillar. Nurture is really a lot of the crust of what we're looking to do. Nurture provides us the ability to help the next generation to succeed, to find a future, to help them in their education. We've taken over 250 students through education, through mentoring, through helping them through their job finding and growth initiative. And now we're doing a lot more than that, which I'll get to in just a minute in terms of our future. Promote really was a pillar that was established to act as a bridge between Life and Lebanon's public and private sectors, channeling all of Life's expertise and influence towards the development of the Lebanese economy. Now that has taken a new vision right now, a new area of focus, particularly given everything that's going on in Lebanon. And with everything that's happening there, we have focused the energy to try to help and be very influential on the policy front, on the economy, on finance, anything we can help influence on that matter. But also very importantly, we took a lot of initiatives on the ground. So we have over the past year focused a lot of our energies to helping Lebanese in Lebanon. So even when we look at nurture, and maybe we go to the next page, Jihan, if I may, to show you some of the initiatives that we've done. So although in the past 10 years, we have focused on educating some Lebanese in international universities in particular and helping them through their path and growth of career development, we have over the past year taken a decision that Lebanon is really suffering a lot. The Lebanese that are educating in Lebanon are suffering a lot. The universities are suffering a lot. So we've allocated $1 million just to help educate undergrads, particularly in Lebanon. We've shifted our attention towards that. And I'm proud to say that we are going to be influencing or helping the education of about 120 students just this year alone with that commitment that we've provided the various different universities in Lebanon. And it's really top tier students, really good at what they do, but without the means to unfortunately finish their education. And we wanted to take them on board and help them under the Life umbrella. And we're going to continue to support beyond that. We've also, given the situation in Lebanon this past year, decided to do something that is a bit atypical, but it was necessary, which is a life emergency relief fund. We have done it in 2 phases, and overall we've raised close to $600,000. We've helped influence a lot of organizations and lives on the ground. It's an apolitical, non-sectarian, with strong fund with strong transparency and governance, but we really focus a lot on food, medication, and really trying to help impact lives on the ground, which we're proud to say we're impacting over 100,000 lives with that. We've also put together support for entrepreneurship and job creation in Lebanon. Again, an area that we've doubled down our focus on. We've spent over $100,000 in grants for social enterprises, a few of them that are helping educate people towards finding jobs and helping them in job creation as well. This is all in addition to a lot of the policy initiatives that we've been taking, and you would have seen one paper that we just published today, and we're continuing to do as much influence as we can to help guide and in any way we can, any shape we can, influence the direction that the governance is taking place on the ground to help on the economic and financial development of Lebanon. And with all of that said, we've taken the decision a while back that the only way for us to continue to garner our support and influence on the ground is to grow beyond finance. Finance was our bread and butter historically. It's where a lot of us have grown, but we also believe that Lebanon and its influence, and the Lebanese and their influence and their successes internationally, globally in the diaspora, transcend finance. Finance was one that brought us together, built the organization, but we're looking to grow beyond. And we started in our phase 2 of that growth and development. Today, I'm very proud and happy to see us expand into consulting, into law, into tech. We'll spend a bit of time talking about all of those and introducing our chairs of each one of these pillars or these verticals, but that's just the start. Our plan is to go beyond that, and there will be a phase 3 and hopefully a phase 4 and a phase 5, where we continue to grow so that we can harness the collective influence of the diaspora internationally, globally, to help more and more influence on the ground in Lebanon and to help the Lebanese in whichever way we can. And with that, without further ado, I'd love to turn over the panel or the discussion to my colleague, Mohammed Sher, who's a fellow board member, been with Life from the very beginning, and he is the chair of Connect. And with that, he can walk us through a little bit more about our value proposition and introduce the 3 new pillars that we're going to expand into. Well,
there we go. Great, thank you, May, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have so many of you on the line. It's a real pity we couldn't do this together. I know you share my disappointment that it would have been much more fruitful, much more pleasant to have done this in person. And that was the plan, actually. Initially, we wanted to do this session together back in March, literally as the COVID-19 circumstances were unfolding around us. We had to, unfortunately, cancel the event, and now we find ourselves doing it all electronically. I hope you are all well. I echo what May said. I hope you and the families are well. It's a testing environment for all of us in a number of ways, and despite the easing of the lockdown all over the world, I can imagine that for all of us there are new challenges, but hopefully opportunities ahead of us. And really, part of the reason we wanted to get today is to talk about another avenue of opportunity, of what it means to be part of Life, what are some of the benefits, some of the aspects of what it means to be a Life member. And it gives me absolute pleasure and an honor to really speak to you today as an all-time lifer, if you like. I've been there since the beginning, as May has mentioned, and I've never turned back. I've always loved being part of the organization and have been active in a number of ways, and I know many of you have as well. And I would hope that those that are being introduced to us for the first time will, throughout the session today, feel enthusiastic to join us in building that brighter future. Maybe a couple of words on the value proposition. We call it that. It's on the next slide. Value proposition is a bit of a technical term. It's a little bit heavy, but you can just see what's on there, and you can just, I want to bring life to life for you, right? Essentially, what you see here is just a number of things that we do, but just imagine examples where you are traveling to a different location. You happen to work in law, but you're traveling from London to New York and you need to speak to somebody in the field of finance. You're thinking, where do I go? Well, the Life Network can offer you that. Equally, if you're flying from Dubai to Singapore and you want to talk to somebody in a different professional space because you have somebody that's looking to pursue a career there, the Life Network can help you. And if you want to engage in promoting a brighter future for Lebanon, you're thinking, I want to work with like-minded people. I want to roll my sleeves up and build that future for the country. But I don't want to just work with people in my sector. I want to meet people in other sectors and work with them to build that brighter future. Well, the Life Network can help you. It helps all of us. It allows all of us to spend our time and energy dedicated to the passions that we have, which is helping build a brighter future for Lebanon, for its people, for its next generation. That's, for me, at least what life is all about. And I know that's shared with many people on the line and our membership all over the world. So I won't go through these in detail. I think the one to highlight is that we've gone digital recently with the Life app. Hopefully you've all signed up to that. And we are looking to build future versions of it. We've built our own social network, if you like, and it's really an opportunity for us to stay connected globally, especially during these times. The last thing I wanted to mention really before I hand over to our esteemed panel is on the next slide, you'll see an overview of those three sectors. For us, as May has said, our DNA was in finance, and it's an area we know well and we're extremely well connected. But we wanted to push into these sectors, and there's only one way to do that, and that is essentially with leaders from that sector. And what you have here are three individuals that are leaders on a global stage within their respective fields. I don't need to spend too much time introducing them to you. They will share with you some of their thoughts in terms of what they're doing about that expansion, how they're going to engage with their respective membership and really give you an opportunity as lawyers, as consultants, as tech professionals to really become part of this global network. So very lucky to have them on the team. They've been committed to this expansion and they've formed committees and groups to help them. And I'm sure they will call on you as you join us in order to build that next phase of our organization. So Ahmed, Rindala and Alexandra, I'll give you the floor, maybe a few words from you before we turn over to the panel. Maybe we'll start off with you, Ahmed.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all safe. I see many friends on Zoom, and I hope that next time we'll see you face to face. So I'm an optimist. So I'm hoping that next time we'll be with shaking hands and hugging and kissing and so on. So I just wanna maybe cover three things very quickly. One, which is why I joined. Second is how I feel about life now, and maybe third, you know, what do we want to do with the consulting part and what you can do to help. You know, the first part, why I joined, I have to say, I'm embarrassed to say, but it's more mainly jealousy and FOMO, because I would be hanging out and seeing my friends, you know, be it in Dubai or like as simple as that. And then I would see them and they would be coming out of these lunches with people that I know and I like. And I hear about the speakers, and the speaker came and this, we've done this, and we have this event, I don't know, in Versailles and whatever it is. I said to myself, I have to be there. So I'm glad I ended up joining. So it was as simple as that. But then what I joined, I realized it's actually much more than that. And you know, the Lebanon, which is kind of small country, big impact, is exactly what life is. And what I saw on the small part is when I joined, I reconnected with friends that I haven't seen from university almost 25 years ago. And for me, that was probably one of the most wonderful parts of life, is really reconnecting with people, and people that kind of reached out. Oh, I didn't know you remember. Literally, there was one person actually that I was with him in computer engineering at AUB, and we used to always compete, and he reached out. So that was, for me, was the essence. And when I went to London, I met so many people during the event that we had that I haven't seen for ages. So for me, that was a big deal, which is kind of the small community that we are. But the impact that we have is probably what gets me excited. And frankly, I'm much more energized now. And I don't want to repeat what May said and what Hamad said in terms of the impact we have, but what gets me energized now is this is the time that Lebanon needs us the most. And Lebanon has given us a lot, actually has given us, for me, has given us an energy and a resilience that allowed us to be where we are today. And if it wasn't for that, I don't think, you know, we're not better intrinsically than anyone else globally. But I think the energy, the resilience that the country has given us, we have to give back. We don't work in the country, we're not in the country, so we have an obligation, and I feel that obligation to give back is what is important for me. And you know, and it's not just the financial part, but it's much more the mentoring part and helping people really deliver their best. And our young folks, especially in times like this, would need us. And a lot of you younger colleagues, by the way, don't despair, because this is, you know, we went through many crises and everything would be okay. And being part of life actually is an opportunity even to hopefully go through this together and go through the cycle together and be even a stronger community and a stronger country. So that impact is something that actually keeps me grounded and pushes me to give more. In terms of the consultancy and what we want, frankly, we are at the drawing board. I mean, we're just now a few members that are there. We have a sketch. It's not an empty drawing board like the one behind Alexandre, but it's which you will see later. But it's a sketch. It's a sketch that is there, and we want you, the members that will come in, to actually help us and help me to fill that sketch and to put the colors in it and to make it what we want. I think the finance community has done a fabulous job, and we need to take on that, build on that, and do an even better job there. And we have a fantastic community. I mean, the people that I reach out to are all excited to contribute. So my sense is, you know, contact me at any point in time, any one of us, join us, and let's kind of shape that community together and you know, exponentially improve the impact we have.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you very much. And great to have you on the team. Let's maybe have a few words from Rindala.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rindala, and I am a corporate lawyer. Specifically, I do M&A. I suppose I've been lucky because I joined Life very, very early on when we were rolling out the Dubai chapter. And the way I was able to get in, and today I consider myself to have been lucky to be able to get in so early, was because I'm a corporate and finance lawyer. So, and at the time they allowed, I'm not sure how many, but a few of that breed of finance people, if you will, to join. I just want to share with you a few things about my experience, and then tell you why I think we're going to do a lot more with Life in the legal sphere. Life introduced me to other Lebanese in Dubai. Many of us who are now very, very close friends, we didn't know each other. I certainly did not know them, even though many of us worked in the same area. We just did not know each other. And not only we met each other, we started working together, but we really became friends. So actually, two of my best friends that I've left behind in Dubai are members of Life. So that's sort of a little bit on the connect side. In addition to the fact, I should say that on a personal practice level, I've met many clients via Life. So for sure, Life has helped my practice. On a personal fulfillment level, I've been very blessed to be able to work with the nurture pillar of Life. So I have been a mentor to some younger Lebanese. I've also been able to interview, I don't know, maybe tens, if not maybe a couple of hundred so far, of the people who interview for the scholarship, for our scholarship program. And that really gave me a sense of giving back to fellow Lebanese who are younger, who need help either by way of scholarship, but also as important, if not more important, mentors. Because our scholarship program works in a very unique way in the sense that it comes with a mentorship program, comes with it in addition to a few other things. So it's not just like we give people scholarship. When I saw how well Life was working within the finance silo, I couldn't help but be a big proponent for several years now of expanding life into other fields. And I was thrilled when I saw that the board was supporting expansion into law as the first 3 fields, because not only do I believe that this will be very beneficial to other corporate and transactional lawyers, but really all types of lawyers. It goes back to Ahmad's sketch image, which I really like, that we have a lot of work to do for the whole profession, and already life as a successful model has paved the way for us, but certainly there will be probably a few differences for us in the legal profession that we will draw in our sketch, but I cannot see but how beneficial it will be, whether it's by way of connect or by way of the nurture pillar, but very importantly in the promote pillar. When I see what we've done in Lebanon with the promote committee by promoting policies and best practices, etc., for the finance sector, I couldn't wait to see the lawyers doing that as well. There's so much to do by promoting rule of law, good legislation, etc., that the legal silo of life can play a very important role in that. And finally, I will say that when I was a student in the US, I used to envy the Indian students, the Pakistani, the Jews, when I see how well they work together and they have like these quote unquote lobbies. And I would always think, oh my God, we Lebanese need that as well. And I think now with life, we have that in a good sense of how, of a lobby. I don't mean it lobby, but I mean it in the sense of a community that helps each other. And I hope to see it now emulated in the legal profession as well.
Right.
And,
Thank you, Rindala. And again, great to have you on the team. You've been also an all-time lifer, and we finally made you official by going into the legal sector. So welcome. Yes. It's great to have you on the team. Alexandre, maybe a few words from you on the tech before we move on to the panel, because I know a few people are patiently waiting for the discussion, but it will be great to hear from you as well about the tech sector. Alexandre, are you there?
Do you hear me?
Oh, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, May, and the live team. Actually, I will repeat exactly the same thing as my colleagues. I joined Live 6 years ago, and really I joined Live because of its international finance community. And I was really surprised by the quality of network and the different people I really met with Live. We have done a lot of things together from business perspective, but also personal perspective. Within Connect, we were able to do a lot of things. Within Promote, I experienced the macro policies, the institutional reforms, everything related to Lebanon. With the team, I was able to really be involved in social, educational, and economic impact for Lebanon. With Life, we have created a school, coding school in Lebanon, which is very, very important. And we all know that there is a huge unemployment rate today, and the future for our young people in Lebanon is tech as well. Why we are doing life tech, why we are going beyond finance, and I was hoping really from day one that we can do that. We all know today that really we cannot do anything without tech. You said, Mo, at the beginning of this conversation that unfortunately we didn't meet in one-to-one and have this seminar since now 2 or 3 months with COVID, but thanks to Zoom and tech, we are able to all connect together and discuss. Now, what we are doing with LifeTech and what we should be doing with LifeTech. Actually, our DNA, all of us as Lebanese, we are all entrepreneurs. Whatever happened, we are born entrepreneurs, and we will all either create a company or participate in an adventure of a company, and also we are ambitious and we would like to progress. Within life, there's a huge human capital, a lot of talents. We can meet great people. We can also meet investors. We can really get a lot of things within this network. Personally, I had a few fintech companies before, and a lot of life members were my tech buyers. And clearly, again, we were able to do business together. You have noticed that Life is an international organization, so we can get access to markets, and I'm really proud being a part of this organization. In tech, what I would like to really do with you guys in this vertical, not only introducing all the new technologies and really the trends about this, but also encourage a lot the ecosystem of startups and entrepreneurship. Over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Alexandra. And again, great to have you on the team. As you say, the tech sector is a growing and thriving sector, and we have quite a large community, a Lebanese community that is in that space. So hopefully they can join our ranks as well. So look, that was a brief overview. We have great ambitions as ever in life. We want to do a lot. We want to grow our membership. We want to deepen our commitment to helping the next generation and also having an impact on the ground. And really today it's an opportunity to exchange from peers in the industry. Karim Jalbout, who will chair a panel shortly, has also been a friend and now a member again, because we've gone beyond finance. He's now a member of Life. So great to have you. Well, it was always good to have you, but now it's great to have you because you're officially a member. So I will give you the floor. You'll chair this panel for us, hopefully get some debate going around the different topics you have in mind, and we'll go from there. Karim, over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me. So I've been with Life for a pretty long time, and I focus very much on talent and technology. So I was always sort of a side member. So it's nice to, amongst everyone else on this panel, be formalized. And it was so formalized that Fred called me up and said, don't forget to pay, now that you're officially a member, don't forget to pay your fees. So at least it's nice to see that we're also quite commercial. So first of all, I mean, it's great. We've got a very broad panel today across 3 different sectors, as we talked about, beyond finance, consulting, technology, and legal. And we're very fortunate to have some of the best leaders who are Lebanese in these sectors. So I'll quickly introduce them. And then there's a couple areas that I think are really close to all of our hearts. We know we've all had to deal with some pretty disruptive times, and all are adapting beyond just Lebanon, but also globally. So we'll talk a little bit about the COVID impact on all of us and the sectors. We'll talk about, you know, future of work. How has that changed? Is it for the good or for the bad? We'll talk a little bit about how we can contribute, all of us from different sectors, to the Life ecosystem. And you know, we've got a lot of amazing, I was looking at sort of the number of people who are joining this call, a lot of, you know, our younger Lebanese generation who are asking a lot of questions about their career, and hopefully we can get some advice from all these leaders around the table on how we can help you, or sort of good advice to kind of put you forward. So first of all, we have Rima Asi. She's a senior partner at McKinsey. She's focused very much on public finance. She's also one of the main leaders of the diversity and inclusion efforts for the Middle East for McKinsey for the last 10 years. So hello, Rima. Charles Kaskila is the CEO and founder of Paxos. It's a fintech blockchain company, which he's personally started, and he's got over 20 years of financial service experience. So welcome, Shab El-Fakouri is a VP at Microsoft. He basically works with all the global clients of Microsoft on their digital transformation and has over 20 years of experience in the tech industry. So great to have you, Shab El. Thank you for joining. We have Rima Mahawad, who's a partner at Loeb & Loeb, focused very much on private equity, leading, M&A, restructured private listings, as well as, corporate transactions. So very strong sort of legal contingency there. And Roland Ziade as well has joined us, who's the global co-head of international arbitration. He's got massive amount of experience in international disputes and tribunals. If you're ever in trouble, he's the guy to call. So let's kind of kick off on the first one. Obviously, we've all sort of had to endure probably one of the most disruptive changes in the history of economies, and COVID has hit some sectors more than others. But I'm really curious to understand, how has your sector dealt with it, and where do you see things going? So if I look, let's start with, first of all, Rima. I mean, your entire focus is on public financing. It must be an incredibly difficult time, and how do you rebalance the economy after what it's gone through?
Yeah, indeed, it is quite an unusual times if we look at the extent of the crisis and how it hit globally all the economies and this part of the world. It is something we've never seen before. There are, of course, many sectors that have been completely disrupted and where past disruptions are being accelerated. For example, retail sector and others. But also with the oil price decline that has happened and the volatility around that, a lot of the countries in the GCC, their public finances are also quite facing uncertainty. In that space, what does it mean for consulting? I mean, generally, uncertainty isn't a great time for any sector. Yet, actually, with some of the accelerations of certain trends and some of the needs for some of our private sectors to actually, that I have realized that this is not a few weeks and we'll be gone. We're going to live with this uncertainty for a while. It's going to be very important to be able to become more efficient, to advance technologically, to accelerate digitization programs, and so on and so forth. This has opened a series of dialogue on such topics. With governments, governments have a very tough challenge, actually. On one side, they're trying to manage the healthcare crisis mainly, but also support the economic recoveries that have to happen across the world. And we're seeing the quantum of the stimulus packages that are being launched. But at the same time, they have to fund all of this. And that requires a very fine act between how to balance all of those policies. So this is actually driving a lot of discussions, specifically in the public finance space that I lead in the region.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because it's not going to be a short-term answer. I mean, whatever policies people put in place or strategy put in place, it's going to have to be the midterm to the long term. So thank you for that, Rima. Charles, let's switch to technology. I mean, you lead global digital assets, and so after this economic crisis and volatility that we've been sort of going through, in your view, how will digital assets grow, or will they grow? When the economy starts opening up, which we're seeing already sort of in Europe and the US?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting time because I think it's underscored a lot of the antiquity that exists within the financial system. And, I think there's examples within large firms, banks, for instance, where their processes just weren't able to handle the concept of moving to work from home. Really, it was very difficult for them. And so I think there's a process going on now where you can upgrade financial services and upgrade assets to be able to move in a completely different way, one that creates much more inclusion, one that really solves a whole variety of issues around speed and transparency and reducing systemic risk. And so I think that it's a very unfortunate time that we're living in. But on the other hand, there's nothing like this type of a time period in order to change your ability to be able to change things. Oh, hi, you want to say hi? Beauties of work from home. No, I'm just doing a webcast now, okay?
Sign her up as a member.
Yeah.
Okay.
But don't break it.
Thank you. And so anyways, part of the beauties of working from home is you get to see your kids all the time, but it also illustrates how much you need to be able to adjust the financial sector and the financial system to really be much more responsive to, I think, a 21st century world. we clearly are living in a world right now where the plumbing of the system really looks more like the 20th century. And everything is moving digital, but yet financial services isn't. And I think that's partly what we're trying to do, but I think the crisis is underscoring that in a really significant way.
Okay. Well, let me use that point to switch over to Charbel. You know, you talked about speed and transparency, an opportunity. There's also an opportunity to just work more efficiently. So the role of digital has, in a way, had a positive impact on how businesses have had to react. And Charbel, you know, at Microsoft, clearly you lead and help all these global clients around digital transformation. What have you seen sort of the impact of digital on their business? Oh, we can't hear you. Charbel, we can't hear you. There you go.
That works now?
Yeah, perfect.
Good. First, like
I was going to say, you've done a great job in communication, but clearly we can't even hear you. You've done so well.
Yeah. First, I want to say good to be a life member. And I always felt like I'm a life member, May, maybe because of you and all the friends. So now I'm officially a member with tech on board. But I want to go back to what Rima said, like organizations, all organizations, be it companies, public institutions, are in an uncharted territory now. They're all wrestling with how best to drive business continuity with the pandemic. And we've been working with many customers, and I've been actually reaching out to analysts like Gartner, who have been working with other than the tech industry to understand like what's going on and how do we learn together as everything was like evolving by the month and we're learning by the month. And they actually ran an interesting survey on business continuity. And it showed that only 12% of organizations are really prepared for the impact of coronavirus. And with the shift to more online operations, now 52% of legal and compliance leaders are concerned of cybersecurity threats. And then 67% of all employers are working hard now to enable remote work for employees who have never worked remotely before. So you can see as maybe Charles was saying, the pandemic exposed the shortfalls of traditional architecture and way of working. So this is where we're looking now at really adaptable organization who exhibit resilience, a growth mindset, and digital capabilities will enable businesses to respond to changes, to the customer demand, to the economy, and even like to the talent and skill sets that are being required as we speak. So given Microsoft perspective running one of the global distributed cloud networks, we have been thinking about the weeks and months ahead, and we believe that businesses who respond successfully and become resilient will act in 3 phases. First, respond, recover, and reimagine. And they do this concurrently. Because when companies were forced to close offices at the beginning, they engaged with us for help. And our CEO, Satya, says like, we see ourselves now as digital first responders, providing the critical infrastructure for move to remote work, because everything is going remote everything. So how do we do that? We have been doing that by keeping workers connected and productive while staying at home, using our teams. And even our teams like doubled in 2 months to 70 million users. And that's usually almost like 2 years of digital transformation time. And how do we maintain business continuity for companies to continue to work? We work on the virtualizing their applications and their desktops so they can work securely from home. And also, how do we enable employees and even their customers to continue to access data safely? Also, we saw a big demand on how do you automate processes quickly and gain new insights as you support remote selling and remote servicing. And we're talking here.
In a way, Charbel, I think it's a very interesting point because digital transformation, we do a lot of work, digital transformation usually takes a huge amount of sponsorship from CEOs and investment, but due to Corona, it's actually accelerated the adoption rate of digital transformation. So, you know, and into cloud and communication and all that. So I think it's been sort of, if you don't do it, you're not going to survive. Let me switch quickly over to Rima, obviously in the legal field. I thought maybe I can go down one angle, but you can push me back. Sorry, yeah, Rima Mawad, right? There you go. I was looking at the wrong meme on the screen. You know, private equity is interesting because, you know, you do a lot of restructuring, a lot of buyouts. If I say one sector is actually relatively active, or at least on the sideline looking for change, is private equity. Have you seen sort of, you know, what's been your insight in private equity and the impact, the economic impact?
Well, it's interesting because I don't think it's consistent across the board. I think what I've seen is tremendous areas of strength, especially in the public markets, like public M&A, capital markets, like our capital market teams are working around the clock. I think people are gravitating towards a certain, more feeling that there's more certainty in public markets, whereas on the private M&A side, there is definitely, I've seen kind of a slowdown, people holding off on deals, waiting to see how the valuations will adjust. Obviously, there are exceptions and carve-outs on the hot spaces like online connectivity, online education, Amazon or whatever. On those, we've seen like it's really a seller market with crazy valuations, and it feels like we're back in 2007 with like terms that are really, really pro-seller. So it really depends on the area, I guess.
Yeah, no, we've seen very similar as well. Some segments where the valuation has gone up and some that have been exposed, and sort of like hospitality and retail being crushed, unfortunately. So Roland, to you from more sort of a legal perspective, you know, what's been the impact on your business?
Look, let me first say that law affects, as you know, every aspect of the business world, and virtually everything that companies do, sales, purchase, partnership, mergers, or even reorganization, is done via legally enforceable contracts. Therefore, on a daily basis, whether we recognize it, acknowledge it or not, each of us operates against the backdrop of some form of legal framework, as well as the implicit possibility of litigation if the contractual obligations are not respected. It is also fair to say that the COVID-19 challenge is unprecedented, both for the economy in general and for various aspects of our legal industry. I will make two brief comments. The first one is I would say that the impact is very widespread on the legal industry and will depend, and Rima has mentioned it, on the specific legal sector, the specific timing, and the specific maybe practice area or law firm. That said, it is natural to expect that counter-cyclical practice such as litigation, restructuring will do well, while other, let's say, more transactional practice will probably suffer more because they are more correlated to the growing economy. But even here, the reality might be in practice a bit more nuanced. Indeed, for instance, if force majeure and material advantage clause disputes are likely to increase, PE M&A are also likely to rebound and pick up again, at least on some pound, and depending on the sectors. The second point that I would like to make is that we can also expect continued pressure on pricing of legal services and on shifts probably to alternative fee arrangements. Procurement teams are also likely to play, I would say, an even greater role with greater focus on commercial arrangements that provide clients with greater cost certainty, for instance, through fixed or capped arrangement, or through arrangement that more closely aligns fees to the outcome achieved. And this is not necessarily new or even specific to the legal industry, but I would say this is likely to increase in the foreseeable future.
Great. Thank you for that, Roland. I'm sure there's a lot of cases to see who owns the money when things go bankrupt, especially given, I mean, that there's probably going into sort of a whole new world for you. Let me switch themes here. Something that I think is common to all of us is having to work from home. You all lead huge teams, and there's sort of very mixed views on whether working with home is a good thing or working from home is not a great thing, and whether we'll ever go back to what normal is and what is normal from now on. And, you know, we just recently, we spent a lot of times with FTSE 100 CEOs, and when you ask them what's on their mind, the number one thing that they say is, you know, how do I engage an organization virtually? You know, it's a whole new different skill set. that we're probably underinvested in, and the culture is even more important to keep up in a time where you don't see people face to face. So Rima, especially with this whole hat of diversity that you wear, and and the consulting hat as well. I mean, you're probably already used to working from home as a consultant, traveling all over the planes. But what's been the McKinsey policy on working from home, and how do you see your clients reacting to it?
We, as McKinsey, moved to working from home actually before the governments decided lockdowns across all the different countries where we operate. And we did that as a preemptive measure to protect our clients, to protect our people. And while actually you would say we are so used to working remotely because we do travel all the time and we work from our laptops, it is a very different thing to never be in person with the teams, to never be in person with the clients for such a long time. And that is still taking a lot of work and adaptation. I can't say that the experiment has been such a great success. What we're seeing is that people are working very long hours. And this is a message we're hearing also from our clients. The work life, personal life, work life have completely mixed.
Yeah, there's no more barrier. Everything's merged together.
And while we all thought we're going to be so much more effective and efficient, we're realizing that yes, in some cases we are, but there's also a lot of things that get lost in translation through that mode of continuous communication. So in addition to this, of course, isolation has led to a lot of mental challenges for many of our colleagues that have been isolated alone for an extended period of time. As a result of that, we're doing a lot of dialogues and discussions, support programs, and coaching for our people to help them navigate through that. We're adding new policies to actually allow for certain part-time programs that have been accelerated and encouraged at this point in time to allow people to have a different model that could work. We're encouraging and creating a lot of awareness on the different challenges that different people have at home. And this is particularly important for not only our mothers, but any parents at home or dual career households with kids at home and schooling having been closed and moved to online education. So that creates an additional burden for many of our colleagues. So we're trying to accompany all of this. Look,
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to say that it's a nice transition to Charles, because I was thinking around kids at home, parent at home, and we got the pleasure to meet your daughter here. So as a founder, Charles, I mean, we talked. Rima's mentioned well-being, mental health, boundaries being blurred. As a founder, I mean, how you're probably motivated to drive your business, as hard as possible, but also you got to also build a culture and manage all those points we just talked about. So how are you dealing with it? We can't hear you.
It's too soon to tell at the moment. There's just a lot of cross currents. So I think it's working very well for us. We have about 120 people around the world, and we have remote offices in Singapore and London, as well as here in New York, and we have some other people in different places like Buenos Aires. So we have a capacity to work remotely, but it's another thing to work permanently from home. And so I think it's working well enough if you don't have, for instance, little kids. If you have caretakers and you're dependent, that's where it becomes a little bit more difficult for people. If you're alone by yourself, it's a little bit more difficult. Perversely, some people are more productive, where they can actually get more work done. Engineers constantly say, hey, this is actually less distracting for us. I think part of the thing that's really difficult to tell is that there's a certain culture that gets built when you are working with people. Even if it's a remote office, you're still working with people. And it's hard to tell if that's an asset that is something you're coasting on and will actually really begin to, you'll feel that asset begin to appreciate very quickly as time goes by. So after 3 months, not that big a deal. You probably haven't made that many new hires, but after 6 months or a year, and people have never met each other, you still have that capacity to have the same connection. And so we try to do a lot of different things in terms of creating small different types of events, trying to get teams together to be able to be interactive, to spend time together where it's not working, but through video. I think we're all doing the best we can. This would have been impossible 5 or 10 years ago. Just I think forget about it. But now it's actually, I think there's, this is the wave of the future. It's just that we don't have a lot of the tools yet that will make it possible. And so nothing will ever change being able to meet somebody in person. On the other hand, I think the capacity to now be able to hire anybody almost anywhere in the world is in some ways a really great opportunity. It's a real way to bring a lot of different types of people together, and diversity actually is one of the best ways to have better decision making.
Yeah, and what's ironic is that we've placed a couple of chairs and a big fund, and it was all done through Zoom. So it is possible to hire great talent purely through Zoom. It just requires more effort around referencing. I'm going to jump around a little bit. So I'm going to maybe jump to Roland. One of the questions about working from home is, if people are working from home, but you're based in San Francisco, then obviously the package, you got to take into account the cost of living. But if someone then is moving into sort of a different area that has got a lower cost of living, do you have to revisit the entire way you think about compensation? Do you have either yourself or Rima, do you guys have a view on that question?
Rima, you want to go ahead?
Either one, yeah. Oh, Rima, we can't hear you.
I think it's too early to tell. I think from at Loeb we've done, our chairman has really focused on trying to not get rid of people, and so they've announced like a salary cut across the board just to not furlough people, and I think that's a positive thing. But on the long run, how is this going to shake out? I'm thinking, for example, about the staff. Like, do we need the staff that we have right now? Or about real estate, like what's going to happen when the rents are up? I mean, are we going to switch to a WeSpace model where you have to kind of like reserve your office before you go? I mean, there are all these questions, but I think it's really too soon to tell. The one thing I'm certain about is that life is not going to be the same after this.
100%. Roland?
Yeah, I fully agree with the too soon to tell, although again, this crisis has led at least lawyers to harness the potential for what we can characterize as the underutilized technological tools, we're mentioning them, and all the alternative work paradigms, which were in fact long resisted by a rather conservative legal profession. And this pandemic has forced us clearly to the passage, almost overnight, I would say, in particular in this industry, from a traditionally in-office culture to a virtual work environment. And many entrenched ways of doing things have been altered with an astonishing speed, ease, and acceptance. That would have been inconceivable, I would say, a few weeks ago. To give you an example, in my field, international arbitration, we have organized virtual hearings, which have lasted a few days or even up to a full week, which may, when even the pandemic is behind us, lead us to reassess, at least to some extent, the way we have been quasi-systematically holding systematically in-person hearings previously. And this may become, I would say, more family-friendly, more cost-effective, although it raises, obviously, issue of cybersecurity. So to get back to what Rima was mentioning, the contour of the after-corona legal industry have yet to be shaped. But as far as I'm concerned, I have little doubt that the COVID-19 legacy will survive its curve. And more generally, I would say that I hope that the legal industry will become less inward focused and more customer centric, will better embrace diversity, will better endorse flexible work arrangement, work-life balance, and I would say better promote and take advantage of the collaboration with other disciplines, since this is a bit the topic of our webinar.
Yeah, and it can also have a massive impact on the environment. If you think of how many times we just jump on a plane for a 1 hour meeting and you're like, man, all that time that's been inefficient and wastage. Hopefully it will reset some of our thinking. And Sharbaz, just very quickly to close off this topic, I mean, we saw the The Zoom numbers go through the roof. I never thought I would ever use a Microsoft product. I put my hand up. I use Teams all the time now. So chapeau on Teams. How are you guys looking at sort of rolling out these tools worldwide, and what's been the reaction from your global clients?
Yeah, I think we have been using them internally, and now many of our clients. And one good feature that everybody's looking now is My Analytics. So you get a little bit of My Analytics that really helps you look how are you spending your time. Are you able to focus? Are you taking care of your well-being? Are you networking enough? Are you collaborating? So it's really providing privacy, personal analytics to look at, are you taking enough hours? Are you working beyond working hours? So it helps you there. And another thing which I also look at some of the trends that I was working also with Gartner on, that they showed that there are some trends that were there and accelerated, like the remote work. And the second one, which was a trend that wasn't there, which was something they called the humanization and dehumanization of workers. And that's interesting because for many organizations, the pandemic required treating employees as people first and workers second, addressing their well-being, additional benefits like extended sick leaves, parental homeschooling, and mental health support. But on the other side, there was an organization who continued to prioritize business as usual, and they treated employees as workers first and people second. And that's something they're looking at the future. And when they want to attract talent will ask them, how did you treat your people? So there are some interesting trends that maybe HR and business leaders have to start thinking of from now.
Fantastic. And if we got time, I know there's a couple of questions. I'll see if I can address them after. But very quickly, I mean, what's really interesting about this group is that there's a lot of common themes that, and I think Roland, you said it. We're all overlapping, whether it's the legal or consulting or technology, but we're all touching each other. So I'd love to hear, and I'll really go back to the beginning here with Lima Asi. How do you think we as a group can support the life ecosystem, which has been very finance driven until now? Or the other question, depending how you want to take it, is sort of what's been your experience of getting something out of the ecosystem or contributing back?
So I'm new to the life ecosystem. I've heard amazing things about it through friends that are members or through family members. I've also read some of the reports and the thinking that Life has contributed in the past. And I've always thought it's a very interesting group that is driving purity of thinking and great comments and discussions and ideas for Lebanon, for the Lebanese community. So I'm hoping with a bigger group and bigger diversity, we'll be able to expand the impact and the topics that we would touch as a group further. So I'm hoping to contribute with ideas, but also to learn from this group.
Got it. Okay. And then I guess Charles. I mean, in blockchain, you probably need Roland and Rima's help, right?
Absolutely. Well, look, I think we were talking about this earlier. Technology is everything now. It's in everything, and I also think certain other fields are in everything too. Law is in everything. It's like kind of the operating system for how we all work together. And so I think that these are really logical expansion opportunities because it's all beginning to overlap. You couldn't really have financial services, I think, in the future without having a real understanding of technology. And I think, law is very much tied into that. So I think this is a really logical way to continue to grow. And it creates, I think, a self-reinforcing community then because the network is more powerful the larger it is. And as long as you're getting something cohesive that's holding it together.
Got it. And then Charles as well. Charbel, sorry.
Yeah, I think Charles covered it. Today, you cannot disconnect. Like when I look at technology, it's not anymore a sector on its own. Today, digital is in every sector. And when you look like even internally as an organization, like to work, I work with my legal and corporate affairs teams. I work with our HR team. Even when we go to our customers, sometimes we bring our HR and our legal to discuss how they will be doing digital transformation because you need to think about data privacy. You have to think about data sovereignty. You have to look at IP all of these things you require legal, and the same way, you know, when you provide a strategy or a transformation strategy for a customer, you need to address all these aspects together. And I think with this way, we could maybe look at some problems that we're trying to solve, like what we're trying to do now with, I know there's a big focus on helping Lebanon, but the same way, you cannot address financial before addressing the policy and the legal structure and the judiciary system. So it's all connected.
Yeah, no, I think it's a massive positive step forward. Reema, what's your views?
I think Life is a very powerful platform, and it's incumbent on every one of us to use it. I don't know if we use it enough. And I have a story from recently, sorry, where one of our members in London, I think Frederic, reached out to Frederic and said, we have a great product to disinfect the MTA subways. Do you have a connection to the MTA subway? And Frederic reached out to the New York team, and I thought, yeah, I know someone who works for the city. And so I reached out to her, and she said, yeah, I can put him in touch with so-and-so. And last thing I heard is that the MTA was product testing them. And so I think it's up to us to use the platform to its full potential. And obviously, the more expansive the platform is, the more opportunities.
Yeah, we're running a bit late, just to let everybody know, by about 5-10 minutes. I'm going to ask one question, go around, and then I'll answer one of the questions that was put on. So Roland, if you think about the younger generation, you know, thinking, how do I do a shift from a career perspective, you know, and if they wanted to go into your sector, what advice would you give them?
Very briefly, I would say work hard and always strive for excellence. Broaden your horizons and be open-minded to other disciplines and be curious. There is more, I would say, to life, without using a jeu de mots, than your specific area, your practice, or even law or your own industry. A very important point, never, ever compromise with integrity. And finally, be serious, but don't take yourself too seriously. In other words, be serious, have fun, enjoy what you do.
Yeah, and I think for us, curiosity is one of the biggest signs of potential. Charles, as a founder, I mean, you've had to go through you had to persevere, and as Lebanese, we've all had to persevere, so I think it's part of all our DNA. But, you know, what advice would you give to become the next? We've got great Lebanese founders in Alex Assaili, Jean Nehemiah, who just sold out, to Mediatonic from a digital. So we got great stories. What advice would you give?
Just because you hear the word no doesn't mean that that's a no forever, and it's not something that should stop you. You're going to hear it a lot, and it's about perseverance and tenacity. And so if you want to switch careers, you want to take a different path in your life. If you want to do it, you have to, you know, you commit yourself to it. Anything is possible. And ultimately, you know, don't limit yourself with your own thoughts. Really believe in what your potential is, and if you really believe in it and you really love it, everything will flow from there.
Yeah, and don't, I mean, that the beauty of this network is don't be afraid to be humble enough to ask for help, because I think we're all willing to help. Reema, you work with some of the best leaders, you know, at McKinsey. What have you seen in them that you can sort of pass on to our younger generation?
There's a funny anecdote. We have a lot of Lebanese in consulting. I mean, our share of Lebanese in the consulting work is far bigger than the Lebanese population in the world. So this is a credit to the talent that we have in Lebanon. My advice is for all our younger Lebanese generation, never stop trying, never stop learning. And then when it becomes too easy, is because you're not trying enough. So try harder.
And Charbel, I mean, you work for Microsoft. You've seen a lot of change of leadership there as well, and sort of a whole new re-energized energy around cloud and how Microsoft's transformed. You know, what have you learned about your own career, having worked at Microsoft?
You know, one thing which is our new CEO like brought 7 years ago was this something called the growth mindset, and that was like based on the book written by Carol Dweck, which really is she's a professor, and the concept about like have the mindset of like I'm the type of learning versus knowing it all, and that's really switching. Like you're always never stop learning, and you're always open to learn, and you don't know it, and that's where you bring the whole appreciation of diversity and inclusion of thoughts, of all type of diversity. And I think this is an important mindset that I even try to teach my kids, not to be afraid of trying, not to be afraid of failing and taking risks, because that's how you learn, versus no, I'm perfect and I know it all, versus no, I'm not taking chances. Got it. So one question's come up. I'm just going to do 3 questions and then I'll pass it back to Life. One question is around for consulting. So I would go with you, Rima. There's a whole, the other big learning is I think our young generation is much more purpose-led, right? It's not just about financial reward, but it's actually doing things that are going to change the world in a positive way. And as part of that, there's, of course, broader diversity to make sure that everyone's inclusive, whether that's ethnicity or gender. But the one topic this person's asked is around ESG and sustainability, and sort of what's your view on if you want to get involved in more of that kind of work for consulting, what would be the best advice you would give them?
As you started the intro, Karim, I think all consulting firms are clearly clarifying their purpose, or at least McKinsey is actively working on clarifying its purpose. And our purpose is work on change that matters for society. It's not only to help shareholders make money. That's not what attracts people. That's not what we're about, and that's not what we want to be. So as a result, actually, work on social matters, on giving back, on helping improve education system, healthcare system is a big part of our work, and especially in this part of the world where it matters most. So
one quick question for Alexander. You got 2 seconds to answer. Someone asked, when do we expect Oxygen Fund to be fully functioning? Alexandre?
It's on mute.
I'm happy to announce that mid-end July we will be ready. We are already, finalizing everything, and I think in 2-3 weeks we are ready to announce that we start transacting.
Fantastic. 2 or 3 weeks. One question for anyone in the panel. Do you think COVID-19 will bring some change that you think now actually is not going to happen? So when COVID happened, you're like, for sure, this is how we're changing. But then on reflection, we maybe underestimated the change. Tough question.
No, not yet.
Anything that surprised you that you thought that was going to happen but hasn't happened?
Not yet.
I thought the curve would be different. I thought we would go through a steep down and then up, and I see that it's different. It's longer term. It's ups and downs.
Okay, so more volatility rather than sort of.
Yeah.
But we all expected the U.S. to be managed like it did, right? So there was no surprise there. Okay, on that note, I'm going to pass it over to, I think, Mo to kind of summarize.
Great, thank you, Karim, and thank you, everyone. What a fascinating sort of exchange. And typically what we would do at this stage is say, all right, everyone, let's now share a drink together. Let's get to know each other. Unfortunately, tech can solve a lot of problems, but that's one problem that it's not able to facilitate. But maybe one day, who knows? So it's a pity we're not able to share drinks together, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to meet in person. I know we've overrun. We've got people in Australia on the line. They're probably ready to go to work, and people obviously late into the evening. But a couple of very last messages. Why join Life? I think you've heard it. I mean, we've got some pointers on a slide. You can see them. I don't need to go through these. It's one of the best things I've personally done in my life, to be a member of Life, working with, meeting with, getting to know, becoming very close friends with some of the people in the network. It is an amazing experience for all of the people that have been part of it, and you've heard from several of them today. And really, it gives you as much as you give it, if you like. You can get out of Life and being just a member, you meet people, you've come to events, or if you want to make a difference and change the country, then it's also a platform to do that. And that's really an opportunity for us all to engage with this network. And going beyond life only strengthens that. Sorry, beyond finance, not beyond life. We'll go beyond life one day. Beyond finance, may have to beyond life. With the machine beyond finance, we're going to go beyond finance first and go into other sectors to strengthen the network. And with that strength of the network, we can make a bigger impact in everything that we do. How to become a member? Again, you've got a slide here. Look, just call us. Call me, call Frederic, call Nadine, call any of us. Don't worry about all of the stuff on the screen. We will find a way to work with you and get you into the organization. And do recommend it to your friends. Some of you on the line are already members. Get them to be part of this organization. It is a place where we could all get together and make a difference, and that's a reason to join. So do get in touch. You've got some contact details there, but through the network, I'm sure you'll have many friends and family. And I think it's been mentioned before, you know, this is really the time more than ever that we need to be together. We need to work to make that difference for our country, for each other, for the next generation. If we don't do it now, then when are we going to do it? So, you know, I hope you all feel that like I do, and I know many do. And so through this organization, we can all make that difference together. I'm going to give the final note to May, and then we will draw it to close. But thank you, everyone, and hopefully we can meet in person very soon.
Thank you, Mo, and certainly thank you all panelists for this wonderful exchange. Thank you for the new vertical chairs, for everything that they're doing to help us on the expansion. You know, honestly, this is what it's about. It's having these types of exchanges, hearing people's views and opinions, expressing what your expertise is, and to bring it all to life, literally speaking. I mean, life started off as a platform, but it's honestly ended up into a community. It's a community. We're all connected to each other. We all live in different parts of the world. We've all left Lebanon for various different reasons. We've all grown our careers internationally. But this has brought us back together. It gives us a sense of purpose, a sense of, as I mentioned, community, a sense of cohesion with one another, and a chance to make a difference, for our compatriots, a chance to make a difference to our country, a chance for us to take this to a level where hopefully one of these days we'll live in a country that is properly governed, properly led, has an economy and a financial setup that is deserving of the people that belong to it. Because look at what this collective community has been able to accomplish. Our hope that one day our country will follow suit. And we owe it to our brethren, we owe it to our community, we owe it to our compatriots that we would do whatever we can to help grow it to different heights. Life started in finance, life is growing into consulting, into legal, into tech. Life will grow beyond that as well. But we look forward to having all of you who participated on this call to actually become members. We want you to become members. We want to grow this community. We want to grow it to a different level. And in your membership, that happens, that strength of connectivity happens. And we'll continue to go forward, and hopefully in the next 10 years, we'll be able to get to double, triple, quadruple of the sizes that we are and make that much of a big difference for our country. So thank you all for your participation today. We look forward to your inclusion. We look forward to many more exchanges. And as Mo said, we look forward to physically seeing all of you, hopefully at some point soon when this whole pandemic is behind us. Thank you again, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, May.
Bye all.
Thanks, Karim.
Thanks, Life.